So I was finally able to download the Pat McAfee pack on my PlayStation 5. If you've been following the channel, that's mostly where I play and where I capture all my footage from. It took an entire day and a half to get the DLC working for me. And as I was playing it, I noticed some things were broken with the latest update, just like every other update that they put in the game. Either it removes all your created wrestlers' hair that you downloaded, or the game crashes when you go into universe mode. The game's been crashing for me when I go to My Rise now. Certain matches will crash if they go on too long in My Rise, and this is on the PS5 version. I feel like every update fixes one thing and then breaks three more things. I was really hoping they would have figured this out by now that we're the third game in. So either they need to gut this whole thing, or we need a new developer or something. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, based off of their track record, I came up with a list of about 7 things that they'll probably never fix. So let's get into this list. Number 1. The Creation Suite limitations, like body morphing, not being able to make freaks with like one big arm, one little arm, and the part limitations. Even though they have what seems to be endless creation parts, a lot of them still make you feel very limited. Think of all the shirts, pants, shoes, boots, gloves, elbow pads that all have logos on it that you can't remove. You can put your own logo over or whatever, but some of them, when you put a design over it, it's still, the outline is still there. The fact that you can't have entrance gear for your in-ring gear because it'll clip and mess up, and even some of the stuff like the capes. I gave my Maestraza character a cool little cape, and sometimes when she comes to the ring, it'll go like inside her body, or in the ring, fold upside down, and it'll just spaz out and go all over the place. And it's like, you feel like they would have figured that out by now. The championships are still like not directly touching the character. They've come a long way. They look a lot better, but what I'm talking about mostly is, even though they have all these options, the created wrestler still feels so limited, and it's weird. So it's one thing they'll probably never fix because it makes it much easier to put parts in, and if they start messing with certain things, it'll cause more problems and more crashes, and they only have like less than 8 months to get each game out each year, to where it's never going to be fixed. And that's my biggest gripe, is the Creation Suite. Alright, number 2. These random bugs and crashes that continue to happen after, like we were just talking about, after every update. It's like, oh yeah, let's remove the created wrestler's hair. Let's, the logos. The big thing for me in 2K23 is I created my entire arena and my belt, and they had an update go out. I forget which update it was, for a new pack of wrestlers that came out, and a stupid My Faction update. And then when I went to play my universe mode, all the logos were off of all my stuff, including my belt. I had to go reapply everything. It took about an hour or two to refix everything. And then when the next update happened, it moved where, like, the layer they were in. So in other words, other logos were on top of other logos that weren't supposed to be that way. And it's so weird that these bugs happen. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in these games, but they gotta figure this stuff out. This is basically what? The third game of the new whatever they've been doing since 2K22, and it looks like we're back to the status quo of the game's just never gonna get there. We're always gonna have that wish. Will they fix it? Will they fix it? Well, unfortunately, with this business model that they can't get away from, they're never gonna truly shine like they should. Especially with today's, how long games take to make these days. Alright, number 3. And this one is basically what just happened. Unwanted DLC wrestlers like Pat Pack, Post Malone, Bunny, like, I hate to say it, but NXT wrestlers that are up and coming. Why would you charge for up and coming wrestlers? Wouldn't you want them in the base game so people can just know who they are and want to go watch them on TV? The only thing that makes sense to charge for DLC wise is big names that are on the main roster that didn't make the cut before the game came out, like Jade Cargill. Let's see, who else? Frickin' CM Punk. The wrestlers that just aren't in the game yet. Kairi Sane. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, Carlito. I'm trying to remember that pack, that whole pack right there. But yeah, why are we paying for non-wrestlers? Like, if you're gonna have like a Post Malone, a Pat McAfee and his friends, make that a pre-order bonus. Make that a separate pack. Don't make that part of the season pass. Because when we purchased the $120 edition, we don't really know who the DLC is going to be. It's just like, hey, you're going to get this many packs. And then when they finally outline it, you're like, oh, I don't want this pack. Can I get my money back for this pack? No, because it's, all or nothing. Anyway, so there's so many wrestlers out there. Look at what Ultra Pro Wrestling's doing. And the wrestling code. Look at all these indie wrestlers or wrestlers that haven't been in the mainstream for years that are finally getting some spotlight, some love. Like, where the hell is the Legion of Doom? They must have some beef with WWE. I have no idea. I haven't looked into anything, so let me know in the comments below. But it baffles me that the Legion of Doom, one of the greatest, if not the greatest tag team of all time, is not in any of these games. Like the WWE games in particular. I really hope the Legion of Doom makes it to Ultra Pro Wrestling. Last time I checked, they weren't in it. I'll have to go double check that. But Ultra Pro Wrestling, if you're listening, please get the Legion of Doom. I really want them in the game. Oh, especially their shoulder pads. Alright. Number 4. Now this is a big one for a lot of you guys out there. For me, don't really care because I don't play online. And that is online lag. Like, if you use a creator wrestler online, it's just going to lag. It doesn't matter if you have broadband or anything. The servers are so terrible in each of these games, and it's been that way since the first one that I played online, which was, what was it, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 on the PS2. The lag has been there ever since, every single game, and it's been terrible. And the lack of match types, and there's one thing that would really make online shine, and that's co-op modes. Why can't we play Universe mode online with co-op? That would be super badass. That'd be super cool. You play it online with your buddies. Let's say you set it up prior and you have, let's say, match 2, 4, and 6 have to be played by your buddy, and then you play, was it 1, 3, and 5, and once you play yours and he plays his, you can progress to the next thing. That way you don't have to be online the whole time. Or you can set it up to where you can play each other in the whole thing. That would be super fun. Heck, my GM, even though I'm not a fan of my GM, why is my GM not online? That makes no sense to me. That's the perfect mode to play online against other people. Another really cool thing they could do, and my buddy that got me into wrestling games way back on the PS1, we've always wanted a co-op online story mode. Why don't we have a co-op My Rise? At least, I mean, couch co-op would make sense, but online? That would be awesome. Imagine playing through the entire storyline, like a unique tag team storyline, and then you can turn on each other, right? You could both go to different brands, you could do whatever. It's a complete co-op story mode. That would be freaking badass and totally different. So anyway, so just a better online features, modes. I mean, how are we at 2K24 and the online is literally the worst part of the game? That's insane to me, especially when everything requires internet now. Number 5. Now this is the biggest issue I have with these games every single year, and that's having to remake all your created wrestlers, arenas, belts, and set up your universe mode, even though the game is almost identical every single year. Having to set all this up, I make like 40-50 characters. This year, I gave up. I made like 20 characters, stopped playing it for about a month or two. I come back every time they have like new characters, but then they screw up the countering timing or the gameplay a little bit, or something they screw up, and I just lose all interest in it again. I don't understand this main thing. This is the main thing. All these creations, they gotta have a system in place, kind of like Pokemon does, where all your Pokemon can be traded to the new game. have a system in place where you could take all your creations and port it to the new game. Now let's say they remove a few creation parts, because they do that every year. There's always a part or two missing. I don't know how. I always manage to pick something that gets removed in the next game. Maybe they forget because there are so many parts, or it just somehow gets deleted off the thing. I have no idea. I don't think they go through and pick certain parts. I mean, imagine all those creations on the servers just being wiped out every single game. There's some really good creations on there. Now, by the time the game's at the end of its life, there's a bunch of modded wrestlers on there because they've opened it to PC community creations. So they probably have to like clean slate it, otherwise it just will break the next game right out of the gate. So there has to be a way to where if you port your character, it has to be from your PC or your console going from your save file to your new save file. Because if they use community creations to do it, you're just asking for a world of trouble. And I think 2K doesn't have enough time to figure out a system like that. The best thing would be to have, oh, you have a save file from the old game. Would you like to bring your old wrestlers or copy them, so that way it doesn't delete the old game, copy them to the new game? That would be awesome. And that would give people incentive to buy the game day one every single year, because I know a lot of people don't. They wait for a sale, and that way they don't have to recreate everything. Like, sure, they might remove a few parts here and there. You can just go in and put new pants on them. Let's say when your character transfers over, let's say his t-shirt's missing, or his elbow pads are missing, or he has no pants. You can just go in and you're almost done. The only thing I could think would be a hiccup would be the moveset, because sometimes they change the names or the listing of them. So the moveset might be a problem, but if just some part of it, like the base character itself or something's got to transfer over. And it'd be really cool if each character had like a stats thing, kind of like Pokemon do. So all your stats carry over to the next game. Let's say you have 1,000 wins with, let's say, Strizer, my main character, and I want those 1,000 wins to carry over to the new game. Should be able to do something like that, especially with the My Faction mode, where they have this card system. Why don't we have a system to where we could save our characters to a card and put them in the new game? There's got to be some way to figure this out. Pokemon did it back on the original Game Boy. A company in 2024 should be able to figure it out with some wrestling characters. Alright, number 6. Now this one's more subjective, because some people like the gameplay, but after playing all these old Aki games, and going back to the well for old wrestling games, not just the Aki games, what the hell were they thinking when they came up with this gameplay style? It's all over the place. We got like 4 different counters. We got locked moved animations, and what I mean by that is once you put them in a move animation to, let's say, suplex or punch them in the head, you can't punch them out of it. They're stuck in that animation until it's done. In the GameCube games, you could break up any move that was being done. WrestleMania 18, 19, Day of Reckoning 2. Those were awesome. Those were very underrated. Anyway, so yeah, the gameplay feels really stiff. The CPU knows exactly the animation timing of when to grapple you when you're getting up, so they can get you in a grapple every single time that you're trying to get up. And there's no counter window for that. And that drives me nuts, because then you're forced to take a couple extra moves because you can't counter everything. Like, why in the heck is the PC know, okay, now he's getting up. Okay, now if I initiate the grapple right now, he can't do jack shit. That drives me nuts, and it's been an issue forever. Like, we need to fix that. I really hope Ultra Pro Wrestling doesn't do that, because that's one of my pet peeves, is when you're wrestling the computer, the CPU, and they know the exact timing to initiate the grapple animation, so you can't do jack crap when you're trying to get up off the ground after taking a few hits. I really hope they fix that. Number 7, the final thing on this list, and this again is another subjective thing, and this is the controls. Kind of the same vein, gameplay, controls. So the controls, for a new person who hasn't been with this franchise since the beginning, like myself, this is going to be very overwhelming. Every single button has multiple actions for this game. attack buttons also counter. You have a button where you can pick them up, control them, you flip them around. There's a pin button. There's a signature finisher button. You have to press, was it R2 and triangle or R2 and square? It's like, what are we doing here? The Aki games were so simple yet so complex. It was perfect. They figured this out way back 20 years ago. Why would you make it so convoluted? I know you're trying to make it different and new and exciting, but it's getting to the point where it's just confusing. I've played these games every single year since they came out, and even if I don't play it continuously, endlessly, if I stop playing it for a week or two, I start forgetting what the buttons are because there are so many. So we need to get back to basics with the controls, but I don't think they're ever going to do that. They have this new control scheme that they think is working because the sales are up, everything's up, people seem to like it. I can't stand the new controls. And they always change the countering timing, like the way the CPU attacks and everything. It's just, we need one counter or two counter buttons. Counter grapples, counter strikes, and you press both the counter finishers. They figured this out on the GameCube. Why are we changing it? Why are you making it more difficult? 2K20 went the opposite direction and had one counter button, which made it way too easy because you could literally counter every single thing if you had maximum stats. So in that game, which I actually enjoyed, once you figured out the timing for every single move, you can counter everything. It was awesome. But yeah, it did make it a little too easy. Even on legend difficulty, you just destroy them because you can counter everything. The countering window was a little too big for that. So the countering system, I think, is the hardest part to get right in a wrestling game. Everything else, pretty much, self-explanatory. Creation suite, fun gameplay, match types, options, whatever. The countering system, because that's how you defend yourself. That's how you get out of an ass whooping, right? Is the countering system. If you're playing your buddy and you're just whooping them, they're not going to want to play anymore. They're never going to want to play anymore, and they're going to think wrestling games suck. You got to have that good balance of you can get out of getting an ass whooping. Anyway, these are 7 things that I don't think will ever get fixed in the 2K franchise as long as they stick to the yearly release model. And that really sucks because as much as fun you can have with these games, as good as the Creation Suite is, it still feels like it's being held back because of this yearly release scenario. If we could just bump it 1 year, give them 2 years to cook, imagine what they could do with 2 years. Just think about it. Anyway, sound in the comments below. What do you think they'll never fix? And as always, stay frosty.